What's going on, everybody? It's Dan, Moonshine, the Hillbilly Hellraiser, back with another video. How you doing? I'm doing all right. It's nighttime. Getting ready to wind down, watch a couple movies. Probably watch at the very least one of the Maniac Cop movies I just bought. Maybe even The Gate. I might actually start with that. Make it a double, possibly triple feature, depending on how long I want to stay up. Didn't really get the greatest sleep last night. I would have liked to have gotten more. And then I woke up and had to go do stuff work related on my day off. And it just seemed like the day escaped for me. But yeah, it was cool. Got to go out and go to Steelworker and Viper Video, which was fun. But other than that, I got a workout in and yeah, and that was pretty much my day. And then this is my weekend, the end of my weekend, so I go back into work tomorrow, and yeah, and then that's the deal. So anyhow, what I'm doing here is I'm doing a video submission for this contest that Barry from that Goat Metal show has put on. He just reached 1,500 subscribers, which very cool, Barry. Congrats, that's awesome. Um, and he asked viewers of the channel. He has I guess one contest for viewers of the channel, and then he's got one for people who actually make videos and all that sort of thing. Honestly, when it comes to these contests and stuff like that, I don't really care if I win. It's not. It's kind of fun just doing this stuff with people coming up with topics, and I would do more of them. But there's some people who I don't. I'm not subscribed to their channels, and even though they're doing really cool, like they got cool contest giveaways and stuff like that, and cool topics and stuff like that. I feel like I'm being a trespasser when I'm not subscribed to your channel and I decide to like just slide into your video contest and all that sort of stuff. But I enjoy it when people come up with like a topic and then everybody can kind of riff on it and give their own personal opinion and take and taste and all that sort of good stuff. So that's what I'm doing. And basically, it was 10 extreme metal bands from New York. New York has a very vibrant scene, has for decades. I would start off with saying that probably, obviously, you can't go with, because it's extreme metal, so you can't go with some of the obvious ones like your Anthraxes, Man of Wars, uh, even Kiss, stuff like that. You can't really do that. So I tried to keep it as underground as humanly possible, and I basically divided it up into a couple of sections here. I've got the classics, a couple of curveballs, and then a couple that basically I'm copying off of somebody else's homework because it's stuff that I would have chose and I saw somebody else do it. So, and again, I'm not too committed to the idea of winning the contest. So it's not something that really concerns me. I mean, it's just cool to do something like this and share and do that sort of thing, do the whole show and tell gimmick. But anyhow, so I'll start with the two where I'm copying off somebody's homework. And who I'm copying off of is Anthony from Metal Miners, because of course I am. I love Anthony's channel. He's got great taste in music, very knowledgeable. If you're not, go subscribe to Anthony's channel. If you're not subscribed to Barry's channel, go subscribe to it. Awesome channels, very knowledgeable people, very cool dudes. Love interacting with them, and that's what I got to say about that. So anyhow, I'm gonna show first off my copy of Winter into Darkness from Nuclear Blast. Very cool stuff. I've had this for forever, man. Just a long time. Tremendous Death Doom. Definitely, if you're not familiar with it, go pick it up. And speaking of Death Doom, again, I picked this one because I would pick this band, but if you haven't already seen my Death Doom recommendation list video that I did, go check it out. I'd appreciate it. But I talked about this band on that one, mentioned this album, and again, Anthony showed this, but I'll show it too because I don't want to show the same thing twice in two videos, even though it'd certainly be worthy. But we got Sorrow again, and this is The Death of Sorrow from their 2023 release. Very cool stuff. Death Doom, once again, very slow and plodding. Uh, some people like it, some people don't. It didn't quite make my best of for the year that year, but again, that was because of the strength of so many other releases that came out this year. But definitely go check it out. I recommend it to anyone who likes Death Doom or wants to get into Death Doom. Sorrow is definitely a good place to start. Very killer New York band. You'll have to forgive me. I just ate a little while ago. The steak, it was nice. It wasn't the greatest cut of meat, but it was a steak, so I'm not going to complain. You know, as long as it, as long as I have yoo-hoo rocketing out of my butthole, then I think we're straight. But anyhow, so let's go to the classics because I this is stuff that I grew up on. This is the stuff that got me into death metal and can't leave them out because it was such a heavy influence on my musical tastes and how my taste in extreme music evolved over time. So of course we got to start with Cannibal Corpse, Butchered at Birth, gutted, meat hook sodomy, vomit the cross with Glenn Benton, covered with sores, just fantastic stuff. It's funny because when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was wearing the Butchered at Birth long sleeve that I had, the one that had it had the fetus down the arms and the Butchered at Birth on the back and then the album cover and all that. And I wore it to class one day. And in my English class, a couple of my uh, fellow classmates, a couple of the young ladies from my class, they got into this huge abortion argument with one taking the pro-life and the pro-choice side, and it was just very bizarre. And it was all because of my shirt. It was very strange. And I'm thinking, I just like the band, and it's gross and pissing you off. So I mean, I had to have done something correct, I guess. But it was mostly, not doing it to be shocking or offensive. But I love Cannibal Corpse. Always love Cannibal Corpse. Not gonna ever not love Cannibal Corpse. They are the kings of death metal, in my opinion, and rightly deserve the crown. They're fantastic. Great live band, great energy. Kind of wish they would freshen up their set a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. Kind of pissed at them because they went on tour and they took Fulci on tour with them, but they only did it for the west coast of the US. So that was that sucked ass a little bit, but it is what it is. But yeah, man, that was that one. And then next up, gotta go with this one. Immolation, Dawn of Possession, just classic. There's nothing that if you don't already know, then go pick this up. Just tremendous stuff. No Forgiveness Without Bloodshed is one of the first death metal songs that I heard. Uh, that was on the Death is Just the Beginning comp that I had when I was a young lad. And yeah, it's just stuck with me ever since, but just a tremendous album. I don't need to say much more than 1,000 other people have said about Immolation and this album, this band. They're, again, fantastic New York death metal, fantastic live, just tremendous. Hopefully get to see them somewhere down the road again. It's been a minute since they've been back to Florida, but they rip it up every time they're here. So yeah, man, definitely that's high on my list of New York death metal, New York extreme metal, and of course you talk about New York, you talk about extreme metal and death metal and stuff like that. You got to talk Suffocation. Just tremendous, tremendous stuff. I picked this one. I know a lot of people kind of give this one a lot of grief because of the production on it, but Prelude to Repulsion, same thing. It was on that comp and just stuck out so heavily in my mind. Frank Mullen's vocals on it were just, it was something that I had never heard before, and it had such a resounding impact on me in the way that the vocals were delivered. It was way different. Like it was when I first started getting into death metal. Chris Barnes, of course, his vocals were really, they stood out to me. Frank Mullins on this, Glenn Benton's, the first two albums, Legion and the self-titled, just that evil sound was like it was mind blowing to, like, young blossoming hillbilly in the sticks who was living in the mountains and didn't have access to a lot of this stuff, and then to just kind of find it, it was like getting into metal and extreme stuff and all that. It was just it blew my mind. It really kicked the doors open for this type of music for me, and that's the stuff, that's one of the first things I listened to, and that's kind of what always stuck with me. It's why I still listen to this stuff so many decades later. So next up, we're going to go with a couple of things that a lot of times, and I know this is kind of like a divisive subject with a lot of people when it comes to metal and the different flavors of metal, the different varieties of metal. I've always felt like, especially, being from New York, upstate, not the city, but nonetheless, New York, nonetheless, I've always felt like it's always had that a little bit of that hip hop influence, that rap influence. There's always been that certain connection between the two genres. Of course, you had Anthrax and Public Enemy doing their thing, but the Beastie Boys and Wu Tang Clan, just a ton of bands who were always kind of had that little edge to them. I've always thought, myself, that especially 90s gangster rap and hip hop, that stuff was like, for lack of a better way of describing it, it really was kind of like black people's punk. It was like, it was rebelling against a lot of the more saccharine stuff that was out there. And it just, that's always what it felt to me. It was very counterculture, particularly for the time. And people can debate about the impact and influence that it's had on society. That's a whole other topic for someone else way smarter than me to discuss. But I like a lot of it. I wouldn't say the Beastie Boys had some negative impact on culture. I just think I like the Beastie Boys. They rule. Grew up listening to them, but that's neither here nor there. But I always feel like, especially with the blending of that and metal and hardcore and the punk, you always got like a very cool, like very very urban kind of style that came out with some of the bands. And there's a few that really kind of stood out and really kind of like they just give me that gritty New York vibe, that just they have that presence to them. And without babbling too much, I hope this makes sense what I'm saying, and it's not just psycho babble. But probably one of the first ones I'd have to say is gonna be Biohazard. That first one. This is fantastic. Cassette. That's how long I've had this thing. But yeah, man, Blue Blood, Wrong Side of the Tracks. They got a freaking Warriors sample on there. It's just fantastic. Brooklyn through and through, these guys. I love Biohazard. They put out that new track recently, and I'm looking forward to hearing what new stuff they got going on, because that one sounded really good. But yeah, Blue Blood, Wrong Side of the Track. Yeah, I haven't heard this. I haven't spun this in a minute, but yeah, Scarred for Life is fantastic. Pain, the opener, Retribution, Howard Beach. Yeah, that just great stuff. It's just one of those things where, to me, Biohazard just screams New York. It screams, heavy metal, that kind of hardcore mix. Because I grew up with a bunch of skate punk people and stuff like that, and this was the stuff, especially when I was a kid and MTV was becoming. It was really kind of like a breeding grounds for like tastemakers, I guess you'd say. But when Punishment came out, especially a sample in that the Dolph Lundgren version of the Punisher, just great stuff. And yeah, I love Biohazard. I really do. They started to kind of fall off a little bit, and then of course Evan Seinfeld got into the adult movie making business. But that's neither here nor there. That's again another subject for another time. I could certainly chat with you about that if you wanted. But anyhow, we'll keep moving along here because I tend to babble, as you all know. But next up, similar vein, similar style. Got to go with Life of Agony, River Runs Red. This one to me is just, this is a classic. I love this album. Yeah, this is just a fantastic album. Of course, the title track, This Time, Through and Through, first song I ever heard of theirs. The Stain Remains, the whole concept of a guy's life falling apart and him slowly but steadily spiraling through the course of a week to the point where he finally made a life-changing decision that he couldn't come back from, and it just very powerful stuff. And Keith Caputo is a very tortured artist, and you can tell from the lyrics and the songs. And it's just one of those deals where you hear about him in the news in most recent years, and like struggling with his identity and stuff like that. You just tell that as far as a human being goes, just a very tortured soul. And sometimes that comes out in the artistry, and you're able to channel a lot of those demons and do something productive with it. But I like Life of Agony. I'm kind of drifting off as far as I'm getting a little too like profound, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, point being is I love this album. I love a couple of the other ones after this one. The one with Broken Valley's all right. Soul Searching Sun's the other one that I really enjoy. But man, this one is fantastic, and it really does scream New York to me. I love that through and through video where they're on the bridge and they're all just big group just walking down the street and diving on each other and stuff like that, just having a blast. That's cool stuff to me. But anyhow, so moving on, because I am babbling. So here's one of the curveballs I'm going to throw you, if I can pick it up. I was just spinning this recently, and then I heard about this topic, and I was like, yeah, this one's definitely going to fit. So how about some Brutal Truth, Need to Control, some fantastic New York grindcore. Dan Lilker of SOD, you know, just a great album. They got a little Mike Nine from I Hate God on there, Media Blitz. Just a killer grindcore band and album. I really enjoyed this. I loved when they did the SOD live at Budokan, and there's one point in the live set where Lilker gets to get off on the vocals a little bit, and he starts doing the grindcore vocals. It was just funny because I'm sure that was something that they're like, "What the hell? What are you doing, man?" But yeah, man, Brutal Truth, another fantastic New York band, New York extreme metal band. Go check them out if you're not really familiar with them. But I imagine most people who watch my stuff, you're older and very knowledgeable, much more than myself, and Brutal Truth. All right, just give me one quick second here. All right, and finally, that was 8. So we got number 9, because of course I do. You see it in the background. You've heard me talk about them before. Seen this before. Got to go with Ritual of Infinity, but Morpheus Descends. My close to hometown boys, hometown heroes. One of the few death metal bands that have succeeded from my neck of the woods in the Catskills, upstate New York. Just fantastic band from Middletown, New York. Love this album. Just a classic. I always remember hearing it for the first time on Monday Night Metal on 97. What the hell? 92.7, I think, was the station, and they used to have Monday Night Metal with Stacy X, and they play this and playing Corpse Under Glass and Proclaim Creator. Actually, they did Proclaim Creator, and they did Immortal Coil, and just fantastic stuff. But Corpse Under Glass, another fantastic song, just a killer album. When I do my little sign off deal at the end of these videos and I say stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal, the sick thing I always laugh at, saying stay sick. That was something that I got from this album, from the liner notes in it. It's towards the tail end of it, and it's always been like a cool, like for me, always a very cool thing to say. I always envisioned that if I got big enough in wrestling and people wanted my autograph and I'd do signings, that's how I was going to sign it. Stay sick, whatever my gimmick name was. I don't think they'd have me do it with Moonshine McCoy. It wouldn't really fit with the hillbilly deal. But yeah, so that was that. And now you're saying to yourself, well, Dan, that's only 9. We were counting, and you only did 9. So the last one here, I don't have a copy of it, but I still want to show some love to another band from my neck of the woods. and we're going to pop it up here. It's going to be Malamore. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Malamore. They're from Kingston, New York. A fantastic, fantastic death metal band. They had two albums, 4-track EP that's kind of like a legendary underground, very sought after thing, Condemn the Rising. And then they put out a full length Dead to the World, which they had some contributions on there from Frank Mullen, uh, the dude from Dehumanized, Rich Nagasawa. Hopefully, I'm saying that right, but I'm probably butchering it. So again, don't quote me on that. I say that quite a bit, but in this case, definitely don't quote me on that. But he does some stuff on there. They've done tours throughout the years with various bands like Deicide and Suffocation and a bunch of other bands of that ilk. And yeah, they're a fantastic death metal band. You don't hear anybody really talk about them. I think I've only heard one person talk about them, and that was Jimmy from the Block. And the only other person I heard talk about him was Justin Horville, J Dog. And the only reason he talked about him was because Jimmy talked about him. And he basically did his Who gimmick. And it was like, man. Fun fact, Ben Colts, the guitar player, actually went to college with him. And we used to run into each other in the hallways. I am almost 10,000% positive. I had a copy of a Malamore tape somewhere in my parents' house. Chances are they threw it out, but I am pretty sure we used to have a box, my brother and I, this random box of tapes, and I'm almost 99.999 times 10,000% positive that I had a Malamore tape in there. So if I ever find it, it'd be like finding gold. But chances are my parents probably threw it out and just said, oh, what is this shit? And then just tossed it in a dumpster because the kids weren't around anymore. So, it is what it is. But I have stuff throughout the years that I've lost and just, kind of cool collectibles or stuff that would be very valuable in situations like this or get me brownie points or whatever, cool points, street cred, whatever you want to say. But yeah, man, so those are my 10. And I want to do a couple honorable mentions. Not really extreme metal, but definitely some cool New York bands. You got Circus of Power if you're into like the cult meets grunge meets like just basic hard rock is another cool one. And then I got one real quick I want to show you too. I was spinning this one because yeah, you get to see my hairline. See as I've lost a couple, but still maintained and still holding on for dear life. But I always talk about these guys. They're not really, they're more along the lines of punk or hard rock, but Warrior Soul. I've showed their stuff before, but Salutations from the Ghetto Nation, fantastic stuff. Very underrated band, but don't really fall into the category of extreme metal, but definitely a New York band that people should check out. And yeah, man, those are my picks. So Barry, congrats on the 1,500 subs. You do a good job. You work hard. You're a pleasant dude. So you deserve it. And yeah, man, appreciate you putting this out there and giving people a chance to do this sort of thing. And again, I'm not really concerned about winning or losing or anything like that. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to do. So yeah, that's that. That's what I got for you. So as always, this is Dan Moonshine from Moonshine Talking. As always, stay sick, stay heavy, stay brutal. Always tuck your chin upon impact. And don't forget to breathe. Have a good one. Everybody take it easy. And I will catch you on the next video. Later.